Hi everybody, it's Mikey from Gilbert, Michaelson here. I hope you're enjoying the online edition of the Practical Classics Restoration Show. It's our section next. I'm going to show you a video we did for Skill Shack of me doing a patch panel repair and talking you through the process. So get yourself some brew, sit back and enjoy the video, and we all hope to see you again as soon as possible. Cheers! Hey, don't show them that!
In this class, we're going to cover patching, repair a rotten area of the car. This is the area we're going to work on. We're going to cover making a template, we're going to cover removing the material, and we're also going to cover choosing which welds you're going to make to cover it up like it was from factory. So this part here is, we have one panel that comes to here, and we also have a panel that goes behind. So we're going to end up making two panels for this one. There's a bit of fabrication to go here. There's some holes to drill for the bonnet hinge to be bolted back into. So that's basically what we're going to cover. I need to get this under seal off. I'm going to start chipping that off with this scraper. This has all gone hard and brittle, and so that'll come off quite easily. So I'm going to start on that. Okay, so that's all cleaned off now. We've got the extent of our corrosion. That corrosion's happened because of this old underseal. Old underseal will go brittle, it'll get a chip in it, water gets underneath, and then it holds the water against the steel, and you get all your rot coming like that. So when you go and look at a car, if it's undersealed, all looking good, be aware that you might have this sort of stuff underneath it. So from this, we now can decide what we need to repair. There's a repair to be done here. That's quite a simple repair. So you can measure that with something like these dividers, mark it on a piece of steel, and then cut a piece of steel. So that'll go there. You'll see it's a bit oversized, but we'll chop that down when we decide where we're going to do our cut lines. But that'll give us the piece there. The next bit is a lot more complicated. This top here is nice and solid. There's nothing wrong with it, so we'll try and keep that because it's got some factory lines in it that you don't want to lose. So we're going to come behind there. Now, to get this information, we can make a template. You can use cardboard, use an old cornflake packet if you wish. We've just got some white card. You can put that on and start pushing with your fingers into the lines that you need. You can take some of the excess off and just use scissors, or your snips for your steel will work as well. We get the information on there, and then once you've done that, you should end up with quite an accurate template like that of what you're going to repair and replace. Now, the more information you get on this, the better, because the more information it makes your repair better. So we've got plenty of material there, but what we are missing is this big pressing here where the bolts go for the bonnet stay. So we can take those out. I have undone them with a spanner before this. That'll come, we've got a little piece of steel there that needs to come off. You see how rotten it all is. So what we can now do is get some more information about this section here. So again, we make templates. That gives us the shape of the pressing. This will have been done at factory with a big press. Lots of shrinking and stretching of metal gone on there. That's going to be quite difficult to replicate, but we'll get there. So that gives us the shape that we need. And we also need to take the profile of the dip. So that profile gives us what we need there. So from these templates, I've got all the information I need to go away and make that that patch repair. What we need to do before I go off and start making that is decide where we're going to cut now. Like I've said, the top rail is okay, so if we chop along this top line and do an outside corner weld on there, that will work. We can also come down this side. Now at the bottom, there's a big hole there from water. Basically what's happened is inside the bonnet, the water and road muck have collected, stayed wet, and they've rotted that out. So what we're going to do, we're going to leave a drain hole there. So we'll come across and leave somewhere for everything to drain away. So hopefully this isn't going to rot out again. So we'll come across, and then this section here will come straight down just after the swage line, and we'll come across here. Now the reason we come across down below here is this has all got rust in between the flanges there. We need to remove that as well. And down here is all fine. So we'll sort that out and this will all come off with that bit there. So that's where we're going to cut. But first of all, we need to make the actual patch panel that's going to go in. So I'm going to take my stuff and I'm going to go and make that patch panel now. Okay, so we've got our panel made. Fits nicely where it needs to be. Checked it with our profile gauges and our templates that we made, so all the information's there. That is ready in essence to go back into there. So what we need to do is remove all this rotten old material that is no longer needed. So to do that, I'm going to use a grinder with a slitting disc on it. It's a 1mm thick disc, very efficient at cutting and not adding too much heat. We're also going to use all the health and safety that we've talked about before when you're using your grinder. Be aware of where your sparks are going. The sparks are going to go this way on this one. We've covered the windows just in case, because the sparks are molten metal that will eat into your windows, and the way you find out is when you put your wipers on, it rips them to shreds or your windows start going rusty. So we've covered that up for there. So make sure you use all that. Get rid of all your flammables out of the area and all that, as we've talked about before when we were dressing welds. So I'm going to get on with this, put my goggles and ear defenders on. So go down the marks we've put on before and take this piece of material out. Okay, this is ready to come out now, but I can't get into the end there with the grinder. So get some aviation snips or Gilbots, get that to where you need it to be. We can snip that off and then that's in the bin. That's gone, that's finished. So with some tidying up, I've still this piece to take out, so I'm going to take that now. Get my Okay, that's cut through there, so that's all off, but we've got 3 spot welds here that are keeping this piece of material in, so I'm going to deal with that by drilling those out using a spot weld drill, spot weld removal drill. This is the type that I prefer. It's got a flat end and it will take the whole weld away. There's another type called a zip cut that works in a slightly different way, but they're not my favourite. So we're going to go in and drill these out, okay? Okay, so we've drilled out the spot welds from this piece. You can see there where they were. It's left some holes in there. That now bin. So that's finished. So what that did, that left us with the hole where all the old rotten material was. So we cleaned the edges up, made it ready for welding. We've also used a coating of zinc primer on the back of the hinge plate, and we've also put a coating of zinc primer on the back of the panel that we're going to put. That makes it easier to get the coating all over that before we put it in, because painting it afterwards would be a bit of a pain. So now that goes in to where we need it to go. Luckily we have a bolt-on panel here, so this helps us when we're keeping this in place. So if we just get that to where it needs to be, I can use the fixing bolts for the hinge to help us keep it. I'll also clamp it as well. Get those in. We don't want them too tight to begin with, because we need to make sure this panel goes where we want it. So that goes there. We need to knock that edge down. Give them a bit of a nip up. Again, just make sure you're really happy with the positioning. You can make that work. So we're going to weld along the top and down this edge. This gets our extra piece that we've got to make yet. So I'm going to tack weld this in place using our MIG welder. So I've previously set the welder up to the correct settings for the work we're going to do. And let's get this tacked in place. So when you're tacking it in, you don't need welds all over it. You just need to get one every now and again, as and when you need to. Tap it with a hammer to get it to touch down where you need it touching. What happened there, when I let the pressure off these grips, the tack hadn't taken enough, so the tack broke. You heard the click and the tack broke, so I'm going to have to redo that tack. So put quite a little bit more weld on there, make sure that one holds. Okay, so that's tacked in place now. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start fully welding this in. We're not going to weld down here, because again, we're going to put the extra bit over the top. We'll plug weld that piece. We're going to weld all the way down here, all the way along the top. But what I'm not going to do is start there and weld all the way along and then start and go. You put too much heat into one place and you're going to start blowing holes. So I'll weld a little bit here and a little bit here, then down here, let it cool off, and then we'll come back and do some more. That's that fully welded now, and because I've finished over here, we're cool enough here and I can start dressing the weld. I'm going to use a flat disc for this along the top there to begin with. As you can see, we've finished dressing all that now, as we've covered in the dressing welds class. The last bit of the repair is this section here. We had that before. We've now prepared that by coating it with zinc primer on the inside, putting some holes in for the plug welds. It actually goes that way up. So that's going to go on there. I'll tack weld that in place, then we'll plug weld it, and this repair will be finished then. Okay, so back to some welding. Yeah, what I've done there, tack welded in 3 places, so the outside bit is ready to go. These plug welds, when you plug weld in, you need to make sure that the panel you're welding is absolutely flush up to the panel you're welding it to. So I'm going to put some grips on there, pull that in like that, and now I can plug weld that one there and we can start dressing that. Okay, so I'm going to do this plug weld at the top. Now we can move a bit further down. Okay, that's those started. I'm going to go back to that, finish those off now. It's important when you plug welding to make sure you fully fill the hole. They're all done. That needs a little bit of tidying before we move on. So I'm going to go back at it with a flat wheel. Okay, so I should be able to finish filling these holes in down there, and then I'll weld down here as well. Okay, so that's that panel fully welded in, and it'll take a little while to sand it up again. So that's the repair all dressed up as we've covered in the dressing welds class. That's finished now to be prepared to take the paint and under seal anti-stone chip, anti-corrosion coatings that you're going to use so that this doesn't happen again. Remember, we've left a drain hole under here so we don't get the corrosion that we had before either. This took us longer than it's taken you to watch this class. You have to remember that the better you get your panels to fit, the easier it is for you to weld, the more chance you've got of making a nice repair. So just remember that when you're putting it together, the more time you take to get things to fit properly, the easier it'll be for you to weld them nicely, and the less time it'll take dressing the welds off afterwards and everything, all that. So we're going to get this done. You guys head back to the main menu for some more classes and click on the one you like the look of.